host, Joni Lane, and thank you for joining us. We're here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time. And thank you, LCM TV, for having us here. You were listening to music by Sam Houston from his Beyond the Crescent Moon album. Beautiful music. We'll be playing that more later on. If you're interested in buying his music or wanting to download it, you can visit his website at samhouston.com. I also want to let you know that every Monday night at 7 o'clock, we hold a meditation at a Positive Light Meditation Center in Kelseyville. We're located in Kelseyville, which is about 2 hours north of San Francisco. And you can find out more about our nonprofit, A Positive Light, by looking at our website, apositivelight.com. We have all of our information on there and the calendar of events, more details on the classes that we hold on a regular basis, and the schedule of new classes coming up. Again, Monday night at 7 o'clock, we hold the meditation at the nonprofit in Kelseyville. And it is no cost because it is a nonprofit. We do ask for donations, and we appreciate everything you can afford to give. It helps keep the doors open, and we want to keep the doors open so we can keep offering meditation classes as well as the upcoming Qigong classes, the Reiki classes, and our guest speakers. Tomorrow is the second Tuesday of the month, and on the second Tuesday of the month we hold a 12 and Zen, which is also at 7 o'clock and no cost. And the 12 and Zen is based on the book by Bill Crumbeen. And we have our traditional AA steps that it's based on, but in addition to that, we have Zen practitioner steps and societal normal steps. What we do is we meditate on the step of the month, which you gradually go through one step at a time till we get to step 12, and then we repeat it again. But then we pair that step with a Buddhist koan, and a koan is a parable or a story that helps us look at our steps in a little bit different way, maybe deepen our relationship with our steps. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. On July 26th, which is a Sunday, I will be holding a Reiki class, and I'm actually teaching level 1 or first degree Reiki. This class you do need to pre-register for because it is an all-day class and I'm limited on the room that I have. So if you're interested in joining us for that, the cost is $125. It's all day. You'll receive a workbook, a certificate of completion, and I will be your Reiki teacher for the rest of your life if you want me. So let me know if you're interested in learning about Reiki, which is Japanese for universal energy. Very similar to Qigong, but we use the energy to move through us, and the energy is very healing and actually heals on a cellular level. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please give me a call or email me and we can talk. I can explain more. And as I said, more details are on the website too if you're interested. One thing I'm very excited about, in addition to all of these things happening at our nonprofit, is Kevin Griffin is going to be joining us on November 8th. He has come to our center before and held a weekend day retreat, but this time it's going to be an all-day, day-long workshop. He's the author of One Breath at a Time, A Burning Desire, and the Buddhism in the 12 Steps workbook, as well as the Laughing Buddha musical CD, and his newest book, which he just released, Recovering Joy. Kevin is one of the leaders in the Mindful Recovery movement and one of the founders of the Buddhist Recovery Network, and is a longtime Buddhist practitioner and 12 Steps participant. He teaches nationally and internationally on the synthesis of those two traditions. So I hope you can join us for this. It's only $50, which is very affordable. As I said, Kevin teaches all over the world and usually holds very large audiences for much, much larger of a cost. So I'm really excited that he's doing this again with us. And his new book, highly recommend it. I'm reading it now, and you can find that at Amazon.com. So I think I've given you most of the information on Kevin, but again, if you want to know more, please feel free to call me or email me or visit the website. It's going to be a great class, and I'm really limited on space with this, and it's filling up, so please do get a hold of me on that. Well, let's see, the last few weeks, 6 weeks or so, we've been talking about the Four Noble Truths and the 3 difficult practices. The 3 difficult practices are taught in the Zen Buddhist tradition. And they are, the first one being, notice when you're hooked. Notice when your buttons have been pushed and you feel like reacting. The second being, doing something different. Doing a reaction different than your normal habitual chain reaction that you always have, which is usually based on anger or defensiveness. And then the third difficult practice of making that a daily practice. So we talked about acknowledging the behavior, which is the first difficult practice, and noticing when you're hooked in your habitual patterns of behavior. That moment that that button is pushed, someone says something or does something that just really irks you, it just really makes you mad, and your button has been pushed, that's what's known as Shenpa. They call that Shenpa in Buddhism. And it is the moment that that button is pushed. Not beyond it and not before it, it's that very moment that it happens. And then noticing that pull in the direction that you always go in. Let's say, for example, you get cut off in traffic and you've had a hard day and you're hot and you're tired and you just want to get home. Someone cuts you off in traffic and now you just want to react. That pull toward that reaction, that natural instinct to just react in a defensive nature, is so easy to go down that path because we always go down that path and it's our go-to place. So when you're acknowledging the behavior and working on the first of the 3 difficult practices, you're also acknowledging that you feel that tug to go down that path. One of the other things we do is we create a storyline that goes along with it. Now we're sitting in traffic and we're swearing at this person in front of us as if they can hear it. And we're telling them off and we're going on to this big storyline and we're really caught up in this anger that's doing nothing but making us angry and frustrated and causing anxiety. It's another part of acknowledging your behavior, which is the first step. Acknowledging that tug, acknowledging what happens, acknowledging the storyline and how it's causing you to suffer. And then also notice how it feels in your body, how your chest may tighten up or your shoulders may go up or your jaw may clench. Those are all parts of acknowledging that behavior. And when we're acknowledging the behavior, we're actually stepping back and observing it. We're not getting involved in it. We're just acknowledging it. And if we do become involved in it, we're acknowledging that and observing that as well. When you pause and you feel that Shenpa, you feel that button being pushed and you want to go down that road, and you pause and you sit in that uncomfortable place of not reacting in the place in the way you always do, you can call that Shenpa and just sit in that discomfort of not quite knowing how to react because you're not going down your normal path. The similarities in meditation and Shenpa is when we're meditating and we're thinking thoughts, we're labeling the thoughts as thinking. And then you let the thought go, and then you realize you're thinking, and you're going, oh, okay, thinking, and you let that thought go. When you acknowledge, when you're following your thoughts in meditation, and you just continue to think, and before you know it, you're planning dinner and going on a weekend trip in your head. That's a form of being hooked. It's a form of being hooked into thoughts and thought patterns. It's very similar to the Shenpa button being pushed and being hooked into your habitual patterns. So learning to meditate and learning to let go of thoughts is also a way of looking at and observing our behavior and acknowledging the first difficult practice. So the first week I suggested to notice how many times that happened in a day, notice how many times your button got pushed, and not react and not say anything negative, and just develop that awareness about it. That was my first suggestion. It's amazing how many times it happens to us in the course of a day that we're not aware of until we actually take the time to stop and look at it and not react. So the second difficult practice is to do something different. So if your habitual pattern is to always react to someone who pushes your buttons, and maybe talk back or get defensive or become angry, or some people just really withdraw and put their blocks up and don't communicate at all. Those are all habitual actions. But the second difficult practice, to do something different, is very difficult because we don't always quite know what to do. So you're going to intentionally choose a different behavior. You're intentionally going to choose a fresh behavior. Most of our reactions, as I said, comes out of anger. And many times it becomes very heated anger. And so when we pause and take a breath and acknowledge it, we can cool off that anger and not go down that angry path. I know a lot of times we say we must live in the moment, but what if the moments are very difficult? We try to avoid difficult moments, and we don't quite know what to do with them sometimes. But all of our moments make up our life, and sometimes they're difficult. So learning how to deal with those difficult moments is really important. And that's where these practices can come in so handy, because we're learning how to be happier by not reacting in a negative way and not saying negative things to ourselves or to other people. We're intentionally choosing fresh behavior, as I said, and it's difficult. But in order to find a behavior that is positive, that works for us, we need to use our intelligent mind. We need to use our higher mind, something we can actually be the bigger person and take ourselves a step above our natural behavior patterns. Look at how we want to react. Think about the negative repercussions of it. Not go there, and intentionally do something with a loving, open heart, using our higher intelligence. It actually takes some effort, and that's why it's called a difficult practice. But in the long run, you're creating a new habit that's healthy and causing happiness, or at least maybe dispelling anger and frustration. And so you're creating a fresh behavior intentionally that's going to cause something positive instead of negative. The second week's suggestion was to practice letting the storylines go. In order to find the fresh behavior, practice not going into the whole story that we create in our head. Somebody may have made you mad at work, and 2 weeks later you're still stewing over it. That's a storyline. That's a really good storyline. So if you pause and take a breath and let that storyline go and let your old behavior patterns go, it actually opens the door to the truth of what the situation really is. Usually when our buttons get pushed, it's something small. Because something else is bugging us, or it could be a cumulative problem. It could be that we've had a lot of really upsetting things happen that day. And so it's difficult to not react in a negative way. So in the second week suggestion of letting the storyline go, excuse me, we are allowing our higher mind to take over and to create something positive. One of the things that we talk about in the Zen tradition of Buddhism is, excuse me, no harm, or Maitri. And generally this term is used, metta means loving kindness, which is Sanskrit. Excuse me, I have allergies. But Maitri means to cultivate and nurture our natural loving kindness toward ourselves. So if we learn how to be kind toward ourselves and not talk badly toward ourselves, not discipline ourselves too much, we're using Maitri. We're using loving kindness, patience, understanding, being patient with ourselves. Last week's suggestion was to practice causing no harm toward yourself or others as you learn to choose the fresh behavior. Practicing compassion and love toward yourself as you begin to learn the fresh behavior and leaving the criticism out of it. So if our button is being pushed and we catch ourselves feeling that tug to go down that same old anger path, and we don't go there, and we take a breath and pause and sit in that discomfort of not knowing where to go, and take the time to use our higher mind and our open heart to choose a fresh and loving behavior, we are using Maitri. We are being kind and loving toward ourselves. We're also being patient and compassionate toward ourselves because we're learning something new. And learning something new is not easy when we've been doing something for many, many years. I've been practicing meditation for over 25 years, and I get caught in my Shenpa all the time. And I remind myself what it is. It's Shenpa. It's the button being pushed. And taking a breath, decide, I don't want to do this. I don't want to react the way my gut is telling me to react. But I am going to look at why it's really upsetting me and realize too that the other person may be having a hard day. So in letting it go and not reacting or choosing a different behavior of forgiveness, I'm creating a more positive pattern and replacing a pattern that causes suffering with a pattern that causes happiness, which is something I think we all want. This week I wanted to talk about meditation in relation to Shenpa. So if we're sitting in meditation, there's various degrees of Shenpa. Some people would ask, you know, the little things are little Shenpas, little buttons being pushed. Just somebody cutting you off in traffic, somebody being rude to you at work. Maybe your husband or your wife is in a bad mood and it's rubbing off on you. Those are considered small little things that kind of dig at us. But there are big things that happen in the world, and it affects all of us. And we don't really know how to deal with something that big. And so we kind of let the little things push the buttons from the big things, and we react. And that's really more of a big Shenpa, I guess you could call it. So if there's various degrees of Shenpa, you know, the littler things and then there's the bigger things, you can look at meditation as there's a couple of times when you may have a thought or two and then they don't really distract you that much. And they go away and you let it go and you're back in your quiet place. I would consider that small meditation Shenpa. But then there's the times when your thoughts are just taking you into a direction that you realize for the past 15 minutes you've been planning dinner, landscaping your yard, planning a vacation, and you realize, wow, I've been thinking thoughts and creating all these stories in my head for 15 or 20 minutes now, and I just can't seem to stop. That would be considered, in meditation, Big Shempa. So the purpose of meditation is not to get rid of your thoughts. Pema Chodron explains in her lecture on Shempa, it is the nature of the mind to think. We're human, we're going to think. Just like it's the nature of the sky to have clouds. She says, sometimes the clouds part and there's more space, and this can happen in meditation also. In this way, meditation might be seen as poking holes in the clouds. We acknowledge the presence of what appears to be a lot of clouds when we realize that we've been thinking. Then we simply return to the clear sky-like nature of mind. I think that's a really interesting quote, and I love to read that because it does remind me that during meditation practice, I am teaching myself to let go. I am teaching myself to notice my thoughts and notice that I am having thoughts, and I can label it thoughts and then exhale and let the thought go. Sometimes I notice I've been thinking quite a while before I caught myself. So meditation can be a really good practice in learning how to practice your 3 difficult practices. Along with the subtler form of Shempa, you might notice the longer periods of time that you really get caught up in thought. But even those you can let go of. It's not too difficult to say, oh, I've noticed I've been thinking here for like 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to start over and breathe and come back to my breath. And it's not that hard. But when you're really upset, maybe you've had a really hard day, maybe someone you love has been harmed and it's really affecting you. They've had it, one of your children is in trouble or been hurt. There are things that affect us deeply, and it's difficult to not think about them. And it's really difficult to not get caught up in that thought. So if we're taking a meditation practice and we're still thinking about that, how do you turn that off? How do you not think about those things? And that's why I always suggest finding a meditation center near you. If you can't come to my Monday night meditations, find a meditation center near you and learn how to do some mindfulness meditation. Because in mindfulness meditation, you will learn how to not beat yourself up for thinking. You're gonna think, but notice that you're thinking, acknowledge it, call it what it is, thinking, take a breath and let it go. You may start out saying, I'm breathing, I'm thinking. I'm breathing, I'm thinking. That's how often you think when you first start out. When you practice it more and more, you have less and less thoughts that you're attached to. I'm not going to say the less thoughts you have, because we're going to have thoughts. But the more you practice meditation, the more you can let go of the thoughts and not become attached to them and not create a story. And so in learning to let go, you can more easily let go of the reactions when someone pushes your button. You'll learn in meditation that I can let go of thoughts. I can let go of this reaction that I want to have right now with this person who made me really mad. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to pause. I'm going to be using my higher mind and my open heart, and I'm going to react in a happy, loving way. If I can't, I may choose to just not react at all and to walk away. These are very empowering steps. And when you learn to do the 3 difficult practices and you start practicing them every day, you will notice how much more peaceful your life becomes. You will notice that the things that used to bother you seem really trivial. Then you don't care so much. You don't really want to get caught up in that storyline and the drama that it creates. Drama is a very addicting thing. And a lot of times you'll be at work and somebody will start gossiping about someone, and it's addictive. And we get caught up in that. The thing we forget is that it's very harmful to the person we're gossiping about. Just like our reactions of negative reactions to Shenpa can be really harmful to ourselves and others. So in this way, we are affecting the interconnectedness of the world. We are learning that some things really aren't worth getting upset about. And the things that we feel are worth getting upset about can be handled in a peaceful, higher-minded, open-hearted way. So I'm going to take a break right now, and you'll have commercial for a couple of minutes, and we'll continue on with this talk about our Shenpa and how to react or not react.
You're invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Hi, and welcome back to A Positive Light. I'm your host, Joni Lane. In the first half of today's show, we were talking about Shenpa, that time when your button is being pushed, that time when you feel like reacting in your same old habitual way, and in doing so can create a lot of anxiety for yourself. And most of the time when we just react, our knee-jerk reaction, it's usually angry and defensive. That's not going to cause us a whole lot of happiness and freedom. I was also talking about the subtler forms of Shenpa and the gross forms or the larger forms of Shenpa. When we're meditating and we're having a thought, then we can easily let it go. It doesn't really affect us. That's a type of Shenpa. It's very slight. Didn't really affect us. No big deal. We could let it go. Sometimes we get caught up in our thoughts a little bit and realize we're wandering in our thoughts. Oh, I'm wandering in my thoughts for about 10 minutes now. And it's harder to let go because you're really involved now in something, in your thoughts. And that would be a little bit larger of Shempa, greater Shempa. But then if you're planning dinner and you're going over an argument you had with your spouse and you're thinking of all the things that you should have said and you want to say and all the things that you can say when you get back home, and now you're really getting involved with your thoughts. That's big Shempa. And then it's in meditation Shempa. And I'm trying to show the similarities between practicing meditation and practicing letting go of thoughts, and practicing life and letting go of the buttons being pushed and our reactions to them. Letting go of our habitual reactions to them and learning how to create new reactions, healthy reactions that cause happiness and freedom. When you notice that you're hooked on a thought in meditation and that you're just simply lost in thought, you're just gone, it's really hard to do something, but you catch yourself and you realize it and you think, oh, okay, I'm caught. I'm going to let go. I'm going to practice something different. I'm going to come back to my breath. I'm going to think about my breath. I'm going to let go of thoughts. When they come into my head, I will identify them as thinking. I'll go back to my breath. And calm yourself back down. Get into a place where you don't need to go over the storylines in your head. You're practicing fresh behavior. And in doing that in meditation practice, it's easier to bring that over into life, into everyday life. So the reality is that something radically different from the usual is happening. You're teaching yourself something new. It's a way of pausing and interrupting the momentum of the habit and reconnecting with the immediacy of the here and now, in this moment. Not in what happened in the past, earlier today or later tonight, wondering what will happen, what did happen. You're experiencing the now, the moment right now. You're interrupting the pattern, the momentum of that habitual pattern of thought. You're stopping it, and you're coming back to this moment. The immediacy of being in the here and now is really important for you to understand. And I want you to really understand the immediacy of the here and now is you can't do anything about the past. There are things that need to be taken care of. There are responsibilities that we have. But there are healthy ways to react and habitual ways that are unhealthy to react. So in learning the 3 difficult practices, you're learning to create new, healthy, fresh behaviors. I know I'm repeating that a lot, but I really want you to see the correlation between meditation and practicing the 3 difficult practices. It's really hard to not react. We really want to go down that road. There are times when people make us so mad that we feel good just telling them off. We just feel good until later when we're caught up in the story and we're still going over it and over it and over it in our head. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and we can't sleep because our thoughts are going on and on and on. But by practicing meditation, you can learn how to let the thoughts go. There's nothing you can do about it at this moment. You're in bed asleep, or you should be, so you're letting it go. Practicing meditation will help you learn to let those thoughts go. It reduces your anxiety because you're learning how to not go into those habitual places that cause suffering. You're learning how to create new, happy places to go so that you're not suffering and you can be happy with yourself and satisfied at the end of the day that you acted like the best person you could be, and that if someone's upset, it's really not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to take care of you and your happiness and be the best person you can be. That's more my opinion than anything else, but I think most people would agree with that. So I have notes here that I want to be sure and go over because I don't want to leave anything out. In learning how to practice the 3 difficult practices, I think it's really important to understand how the mind works. Our mind, when we're children, we're learning patterns. We learn to react, and we learn what works and what doesn't work, what gets us what we want and what doesn't get us what we want. I think that's natural for people. I think children do it naturally. We have lessons that we learn, and hopefully we have good parents that teach us good lessons of how to accept disappointment gracefully. Sometimes things don't go our way. We got to let it go. Some people have a better time with that than others. Some people really want what they want, and when they don't get it, they get very upset. I think when that happens and we take it out on other people, it creates a chain reaction of negative behavior. It creates a world where we're taking our anger out on each other and we're becoming very defensive and causing a lot of suffering. I know when we're 19, we're very idealistic and we want to change the world, and we think, you know what, if everybody would just act in a certain way, the world would be a wonderful place. And maybe you're right, maybe it would be. But realistically, that's not going to happen. So the alternative is to either become frustrated because that's not going to happen, or learn to accept things as they are for the truth. The truth of what the situation is, not what you want it to be. When we get stuck on something we want and we go over and over and over it in our head, that's a form of shenpa. That's a form of suffering. Learning to not do that and accept what is and change the things you can change and accept the rest of it is a really important thing to really get and practice on a daily basis. It's hard to practice, but I think it's really important, because if we want to be happier people, we're really the only ones that can create our own happiness. So, excuse me, I have allergies and I'm trying not to sneeze. Sometimes there's a lot of thoughts that go through your head for just a fraction of time. And when you go back to your thoughts and you start getting caught up in them and realize it and go, okay, I'm coming back to my breath, I'm letting go, you're doing something different. You're practicing the second difficult practice of doing something different. It's uncomfortable to be sitting and not having thoughts to get hooked on. That's a strange idea, but it's similar to being in that space of sitting in your shenpa, sitting in the reaction that you want to have, and not being able to go down that road because you want to create fresh behavior. Now you're sitting in an uncomfortable place that's foreign, and we're not used to that. When we're in a foreign place and we don't quite know where to go, it's uncomfortable. But by meditating, you can learn to be in those awkward, uncomfortable places and let it go and not get involved with the discomfort of it. Just accept it for what it is for that moment. You can learn to go back to the breath. And the breath is a perfect place to go. If you're walking around in life and someone pushes your button, breath is a perfect place to go. Take a breath and pause. Don't get involved with the thoughts. Don't get involved with your behavior that you want to use. Just pause. You can meditate in the same way, and meditate in the same way and bring it with you in real life. So I hope you're seeing the correlation between the two of learning how to meditate and learning how to change your behaviors into something positive. There's really no right or wrong way to meditate. There's only learning how to let go of thoughts, and these are thoughts that we're inevitably going to have because we're human and we are going to have thoughts. So if you have a goal of meditating and you're saying, I want to meditate because I don't want to have thoughts. Or the other thing I often hear is, I can't meditate because I can't stop thinking. And you won't stop thinking, but you can let go of your thoughts and not get involved with them. You can put them off to the side and not get involved in them. So these are all steps to use to help you change your behavior into something different. The thing to learn here is to not get caught in the thoughts and to be able to have them and let them go. The other thing to realize is you don't need to beat yourself up if you are getting caught in your thoughts. So let's say you're meditating and you realize you've been caught in your thoughts and you're traveling down that road and you're making dinner and all kinds of things, planning all kinds of things in your head. Don't berate yourself and don't say negative things about yourself. Don't get upset with yourself. You need to be patient. You need to use Maitri. You need to be compassionate toward yourself while you're learning something new. Don't create more shampa for yourself by beating yourself up for being human. So we're going to do a little bit of meditation practice here today. But before we do, there's a couple of things I wanted to go over. Through today's meditation, I will be speaking occasionally to bring your mind back to your breath in case your mind wandered off. Keeping your mind on your breath as it fills your lungs and exhaling and blowing away any thought that you may have gotten stuck on. Another technique you can use is to visualize a stream in front of you, and if your thought comes in your mind and you label it as thinking and it won't go away, you can visualize yourself putting that thought on the stream, letting it float on by, and just taking a breath and feeling the breath in your lungs. Remember to be kind to yourself. And remember while you're meditating that you're practicing something new. And you've got to give yourself a break. And give yourself a break to be human. You're going to have thoughts. When you catch yourself, come back to your breath. So I will say thank you to LCM TV for having us here on Mondays at 3 o'clock. Thank you to Sam for letting us listen to your beautiful music, and Mark Stanglini, who is our engineer and takes care of all these graphics and music for us. Mark will be playing Sam's CD while we meditate, and I will be talking a little bit through that. He will fade out, and you can sit and keep your eyes closed or opened, and just continue to meditate after I'm done talking. So again, thank you for joining us. And let's take a couple of deep breaths and get centered. And as you exhale, let go of any tension you're holding in your body. Notice your breath entering your nostrils, swirling around in the back of your throat. Notice how your lungs expand as you breathe in. And notice how your body relaxes as you exhale. Let go of any tension you're holding in your shoulders. Let go of any tension you're holding in your jaw muscle, your neck. Let your belly relax. And let your hips and legs relax. Sitting upright as best you can without tensing up, relaxing your abdomen, letting your arms and hands relax. Breathing in, filling your lungs. how your body relaxes as you exhale. If a thought comes in, you can label it thinking, come back to your breath. Lungs expanding, body relaxing as you exhale. If your mind wanders, come back to your breath, lungs expanding, body relaxing as you exhale. You can say to yourself, I am breathing in, I am breathing out. I am breathing in, I am breathing out. Coming back to your breath as your mind wanders. Breathing in and breathing out. Letting go of more tension on your next exhale, relaxing a bit more deeply. Letting your thoughts go, label them thinking, come back to your breath. If your mind wanders, come back to your breath. And you might blow the thought away as you exhale and let it go. Coming back to your breath, I am inhaling. I am letting thoughts as I go as I exhale. I am inhaling, I feel my lungs expand. I am letting thoughts go as I exhale. Coming back to your breath, I'm inhaling, my lungs expand. I am exhaling and relaxing. breath as you're thinking, and exhaling, relaxing. I am inhaling, my lungs expand. I am exhaling and relaxing and letting go of thought. Breathing in, my lungs expanding. I am exhaling and relaxing. I invite you to continue to listen to the music and continue meditating. I will see you next week. Thank you for joining us today.